The Lord is robed in majesty and armed with strength. Indeed, the world is established firm and secure. Psalms 93:1. The points that we're going to get out of this lesson today is God is strength, sovereignty, might, and holiness. We said a lot about holiness last year in our lessons. But I'm just going to get started. Even though we got 5 verses, there's a lot of words in this lesson. So I'm going to start with the lesson context, and I'm going to read it. How do we describe things we have never experienced? One way is to use our imaginations to compare what we have not experienced to what we have. Think about that for a minute. Our imagination, to think about something and to compare it to something we've never experienced, right? We gain an appropriate understanding of things we have not seen by liking them to things we have seen. That's association to what to your mind and your imagination. We have not directly seen the glory and power of God. But we can compare God's glory and might to the glorious and powerful things we have experienced. And that said, the glorious and powerful things. And I think if I ask for the raise of hands, we all can raise our hands to that, right? Knowing he surpasses them all. In a sense, our text is an exercise in imagination directed by God's experience. Don't we feel privileged today? I'm going to read that again. Our text is an experience in imagination directed by God's inspiration. And I could just keep going over and over that, but we're going to feel that as we go. The psalm uses 2 literary devices extensively. One is personification. This conviction uses images and descriptions of human life to describe God. Images and it uses descriptions of human life to describe God. And I want us, as we go through the scriptures, think about that. If you've already gone through the lesson and some things you might not, you will feel more as we talk. This is personification, not because God is an impersonal power, but because he is not confined to characteristics, especially not physical human characteristics. And I thank God for that as I read the lesson. But John's gospel reminds us that Jesus Christ, the divine, incarnate Son of God, revealed God through his real, tangible presence in the world. In Jesus, the Creator God has become not just near to us, but one of us in Jesus. God's majesty and power became visible among real people in a real time and place. Only in Christ's incarnation could we literally talk about, say, what God wears. And I'm going to go on down. I'll go on into the other devices. The other device, which is parallelism. This technique builds an image through repeating or nearly repeating one phrase or idea. Doing so, it strengthens the power of description. Excuse me, y'all, I'm a little warm. I think most of us are, right? Okay. Understanding these features of Psalms 93 and many others allows us to join the worship and appreciate the beauty of Hebrew poetry, which is so different from our own and yet still powerful. Many psalmists begin with a subscription that ties the poem to a specific psalmist or occasion. The Psalms were written from personal experiences, whether of praise, lament, both, or other occasions, but they were used by the hymn book of ancient Israel. We could compare our singing, and I like that. We sing, and as a race, we get all caught up in our singing, because not only the singing and song, you're singing out through experience, but it's emotional, and it brings out so much emotions, and it ties to the words. A lot of times a singer, when you see a singer really get into something, you can tell that person has experienced what they're singing about. We could compare our own singing of hymns. The context of the lyrics can be powerful, but the experiences we bring to our singing are what ultimately gave the song real power to speak to us as we sing to the Lord. Psalms 93 does not contain a superscription, but it is set in a location of kingship psalms. Kingships, back in those days, as being a king is what they were used to, and even some cultures still worship kings. As the phrase suggests, kingship psalms celebrate the king, though sometimes this might be a Davidic king, or other times the Lord. Or sometimes it might be that one of the kings wrote the psalms, and so it has a kingly aspect. So I'm not going to read the rest. We're just going to get on into this lesson. Again, let's remember, the lesson today is about God's strength, his sovereignty, his might, and his holiness. And I welcome your comments. Our first, number one of the outlines say God reigns. A, strong and secure. I like that. 1A, the Lord reigns. He is robed in majesty. And I had to stop there for a minute. He is robed in majesty. And then I thought about the word majesty too. I kind of jotted down